Bowhunt or Die is being brought to you by Matthews, Lost Camo, Lone Wolf Portable Tree Stands, Hunter Safety System, Heartland Wildlife Institute, New Archery Products, Tinks, Carbon Express, Stealth Cam, Moose Utility Division, Lacrosse Footwear, Scent Blocker, Pine Ridge Archery, and Can Cooker.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Bowhunt or Die. I'm Todd Graff. Alongside of me as always is Justin Czar. Guys, it's the end of July. We're almost going into August. There's one thing that comes to my mind this time of the year. It's strategy. What are the strategies that you have in place to put you in the money spot when that buck comes along this fall?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in this episode. You know, Todd, we got 3 segments to share with you. You know, each one is different, but each one is similar in its own way. And ultimately what we've got here is 3 different groups of guys who are out there working right now to try to better their chances at harvesting an animal this fall. Now, whether that's between doing food plots, running trail cameras, getting their tree stands hung, or in Clinton's case, doing a little bit of manipulation of the habitat to dictate where those deer are going to move and bring them close enough for a shot. You know, these guys are out there actively working right now to try to be successful for this fall. So Todd, what's the first segment we got?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into Jeff Kaye and his filming buddy Craig, and they're working on food plots. And I mean, this is a perfect example, guys, of a story that we want to continually bring you, you know, at Bowhunt or Die. I mean, these guys are not always successful every single year. You know, sometimes you watch the different TV shows that are out there and our show, and sometimes people are always like, geez, you know, Todd's always shooting big bucks, or Jeff's shooting big bucks, or whatever. That's not always the case. I mean, you look at Jeff Kaye last year. He started the year off strong. I mean, his hit list bucks came in, Justin. I remember me and you sitting out there looking at him going, man, we need to be hunting with Jeff is where we need to be. And I mean, he had big buck after big buck, and unfortunately, his season played out last year. He was never able to put one of those bucks down.
Yeah, you know, so it just goes to show you that, you know, just because you're getting pictures of them doesn't always mean you're going to be able to shoot them.
Right.
You know, Jeff can attest to that, so can I, some of the other guys on our team. But, you know, in his favor, what Jeff's doing right now is he's going out, he's working even harder than he did last year to get these plots in, get these stands hung, and make sure that he's ready for this year. Because, as we all know, nobody likes eating tag soup once, let alone 2 years in a row. So let's check in with Jeff and Craig, and let's see how they're doing.
Hey guys, we just got the Moose Utility spreader full of Milorganite here, and what we're going to be doing here is spreading this over our bean plot that we planted about 3 weeks ago or so. We're trying to accomplish keeping the deer off the plot so it can grow big enough and mature. Let's get to work.
Alright guys, we got the plot all taken care of here. These soybeans are really looking good. We're really happy with the way they turned out. So now we're going to put the stealth cam on here and actually see what we have for inventory. What we're trying to do is learn to see if this Milorganite really works or not. So if it does work, we shouldn't have too many pictures of deer actually eating in this plot for hopefully a couple weeks. And then after that, hopefully they blow up and the deer start actually using this as a food source. Maybe we can learn something. We're going to put a couple around here, but got the stealth shadow out. Let's get it done. Alright guys, we got the Milorganite spread on our beans, and we got the stealth cams hung. So now we get to the fun part. We're up on top of the ridge. We're going to get the lone wolves hung. This is a killing tree. I've seen a lot of big bucks out of this tree. I filmed a couple friends shooting deer out of this tree, so I know it's good. We got the new lone wolf ladder stick that we're going to try out. And this is a perfect tree to do it. It's a straight shot. 20-footer, should be done in no time. Let's get to work. If you guys aren't using one of these lines, then you're fools. Not only will it save your life, but it makes it a heck of a lot easier when you're up in a tree to actually let go and work with both hands. And it's a piece of cake, doesn't get in the way. And another thing you guys got to get are these lifelines by Hunter Safety System. I'm not trying to be pluggy, but seriously, they'll save your life climbing in and out of these tree stands. And if you got 2 people, they make it with a double Prusik knot to cover you and your camera guy. So the work's done for now. Until next time, we'll probably give it a good month or so before we come and check the stealth cams. But season's getting close, and pretty soon we're going to put together the hit list. Bowhunt or die.
Well, guys, as you can see, from the last couple episodes, watching Jeff and Craig, they put in a lot of work, a lot of effort and a lot of time into these food plots, and hopefully they're going to be successful come this fall. Of course, we never know what the deer are going to do, but you'll never be successful if you don't try. Now, Todd, one thing that we preach a lot here on this show is tree stand safety.
Absolutely.
And I think Jeff pointed out some very, very important things in this segment. And one of those things that I think is most important is, tree stand safety isn't something to just take seriously when we're out hunting during the fall. Yes, we are climbing a lot more trees in November than we may be in July and August. However, to me anyways, it seems like one of the most times to focus on tree stand safety is when you're hanging it. Yeah. Jeff showed using that lineman's belt that goes around the tree.
Which is slick.
Yeah, I'm telling you guys, if you've never used one, you're missing out. Not only will it keep you more safe, but it will also make hanging tree stands a million times easier. Trust me, I never hang a stand.
Justin, but and the reason why that is because you got both your hands free.
Right.
And that's what makes it cool, is you got that going around, both of your hands are free, your feet are planted properly, on whether you use sticks or whatever type of device you use for getting up in the tree, but you got your hands free to help you maneuver and hang that stand.
Yeah, and as you saw in the footage there, our choice of safety gear here at bowhunting.com, Bowhunt or Die, is the Hunter Safety System gear. Right. We've been using it the last couple of years. It really does work great. I know that a lot of people say that, and everybody watches these shows and they think, oh man, they're just saying that because they're getting paid to say it. Guys, legitimately, as people who have used a lot of safety products out there, I think Hunter Safety System is about as good as it gets. So if you're not using it, you got to check it out.
That's their only product, and they put a ton of research, time, and development into making sure those products are perfect. Justin, I know now, for me, when I go out and I'm just doing all my trail camera planning and I'm getting all my trail cameras out, I actually now, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I actually wear my safety harness even when I'm going to do trail cameras, because it never fails. You go out in the woods, you're planning on doing trail cameras, you end up doing what? You end up walking by a tree stand, and you end up like, as long as I'm here, I'm going to just check it out, make sure it's safe. And you know what? If you got your vest on, you're good to go. And you can laugh all he wants, but for me, I wear it all the time. I got my saw on it, I put it on, and I'm ready to go. So if I walk by a tree, bam, I can climb it, and I'm not doing something stupid, because generally when an accident happens, it's going to be because of the fact you didn't plan to do tree stand work, or you just weren't thinking. For me,
well, I'm going to be watching all of Todd's footage for the rest of the summer when he's checking trail cameras and doing food plots to make sure he's got his harness on. So next up, we're going to check in with Trevor Olson, also up in Wisconsin, doing some food plots. So let's see how he's faring.
Well, it's less than a week from the turkey season's closer here in Wisconsin, and it's time to jump right into food plots. I'm standing in probably a 3-4 year old a clover plot that I had put in obviously 3-4 years ago, and behind me this used to be corn. This whole big field that we're working in right now, it used to be corn. My dad had planted now new alfalfa in majority of this field, but the top acre or so is going to be beans, and that's what we're going to be putting in today. And then we're going to hit another spot that I had cut a tree off of that had fallen last fall, and we never got to it. That was an annual plot from Heartland Wildlife Institute. We're going to disc that under yet today, and then hopefully next week we'll have some of those roots and that stuff that's starting to grow up again. We're going to hit that with some Roundup and hopefully kill that. We're also going to come up here and probably mow this next week, So with any luck, we'll have some beautiful plots this year. We got to pray for some rain. Last year was a really dry year. It was a tough year for everybody for food plots. But we're going to try to have a good food plot this year. So stay tuned, check this out. Well, I'm standing in my bean plot that I planted about 2 weeks ago. What we're going to do today, since we have some rain coming this evening, is we're just going to broadcast some fertilizer I picked up at my local co-op, and hopefully we get some beans to grow a little better and we can keep the deer off them a little longer. Well, we're standing in an old clover plot that I've had for the last, probably on its 3rd year stand now. This is where I have a stealth cam positioned over this wildlife pond that I put in last year, me and Corey did. The browse has taken this, this clover down to where there's only a little bit coming up. It's kind of been overtaken by grasses and by weeds. So what we're going to do is we're going to spray it with Roundup right now, and then come back here in a week or so, turn it under, and then re-put our clover plot in. We've got some Heartland Wildlife Institute top seed clover, so that's what we're going to put in here in about a week. But let's get the sprayer going and we'll see what we can accomplish. Well, we just got my plot sprayed. I'm gonna grab our stealth cam here, swap the camera, because I got 620 photos and counting. So it shows 100% battery life. Lock it up, we'll get out of here.
You know, guys, here's another story of one of our team members, you know, Trevor, who didn't shoot a buck last year. And it's something that Todd talked about earlier, where a lot of times you watch shows and it seems like everybody's just shooting deer. They're just everywhere, right? Well, I mean, here's a guy who had a ton of great encounters last year. One of them, you may remember, was one of the, you know, coolest segments I thought we had of the entire season. Trevor called in this buck. He came right to his decoy. I know he was getting ready to shoot this deer. The thing attacks his decoy, just bowls the thing over and takes off running. I mean, that was pretty cool. Even though he didn't get a shot at him, I know that was one of the best hunts Trevor had last year. But, you know, like I said, Todd, here's a guy, didn't shoot a buck last year. He's out this summer working his tail off, trying to get these food plots in. And, you know, he's kind of just your average dude. He's got an ATV with a couple small implements. Right. He's not putting in giant plots with huge tractors and drills and everything else. I mean, he's just your average guy trying to make something happen for this fall. As you saw, he had a couple problems with some of the spring plantings of his clovers. And Todd, I know you do a ton of food plotting. What sort of problems have you had in the past, and how have you kind of combated those?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, when it comes to the food plotting, sometimes I think it's just as challenging as deer hunting. I mean, you've got elements you can't control. You can't control where those big bucks are and where they're going to be when it comes time to hunt them. Right. When it comes to food plotting, you can't control Mother Nature. You can't control when it's going to rain. There's certain things that just you don't have any control over. Specifically in this case, Trevor's got a ton of weeds. When it comes to clover, in my experiences, you have to mow it pretty regularly. A lot of times people sometimes choose clover as a plant to put on a small plot somewhere, but if you don't have the means to get there and maintain it, it's going to be a disaster, because you're going to get those grasses that are just going to constantly be battling for you. Of course, there's sprays that you can buy to kill the grasses. So clover, quite frankly, is a lot of work to maintain, but it is a great plot, and the reason why I like it is because in the late season, they will dig it up and they will eat it, for sure.
Right, yeah, so I mean, Trevor had some problems. It looks like he's killing it off. He's going to be replanting it.
Right.
Hopefully we get some rain here late summer, and he's got a good fall plot to hunt over. So, you know, as you guys could see, I mean, it's something that I think anybody can do that's out there that has access to a four-wheeler and some implements, you know.
Yeah. That's the point I think that Justin's trying to make, to take from this particular scene here, is there's nothing that Trevor's doing that all of you can't be doing as well to better your odds.
Yeah, a lot of us complain about not shooting deer, not seeing deer, not having good spots to hunt. A lot of times all it takes is a little bit of hard work and some initiative to get out there and actually put some of those plots in. So, you know, speaking of food plots, the next guy we're going to check in with is Clinton Fawcett. You know, if you guys have been watching our show the last couple of years, here's a guy that relies pretty heavily on his food plots to shoot deer. You know, he shot a great buck last year. His filming partner, Frankie Clark, shot a great buck during the late season, both over food plots. So, you know, these guys know a lot about what they're doing. So he's going to share a couple tips with you, not just about playing food plots, but also about how you can manipulate some of the habitat to try to bring those deer close enough to your stand. So let's take a look and see what Clinton has to say.
All right, well, today's June 15th. It's been storming real bad today. It's real muddy out, real wet, but I have not been able to get this food plot off my mind. Come October, Frank and I is going to be in this tree behind us, and one of us is probably going to kill a big deer right here. This is a new food plot I've been building, working on this spring. It sets up really well naturally with the land. And what I mean by that is it's in a natural corridor. We can pinch the deer down, get them out in front of the tree. It has two beautiful big oak trees to hunt out of, one for a west wind and one for an east wind. I think this is going to be one of those spots that is just very, very good every year. So I wanted to bring the camera up here today and get this set up right now. This food plot's going to play a key role in our season. There's a main doe group up here. What I mean by that is on the farm that Frank and I hunt, here at my house, we have three main doe groups. The one at my house, the one in the middle, which is where we are now, and the one up the road where I killed my deer last year. We're keying in with this food plot and also a new one up here behind the shed that I'm going to show you at a different point on this doe group. What that's going to do is we're going to concentrate these does in this area where we know we can hunt them well, and then when end of October comes, as you've seen in the past, that's right in Frank and I's wheelhouse. When the does start coming in, we're on them. So I'm going to get to doing this today. I'm going to show you some footage of how we're creating this food plot and a few other little tricks that you can do to keep the deer out in front of your tree. Well, we got the mowing done. Thankfully, we didn't hit any fawns. That's always something I'm a little concerned about this time of year. By now, they should be getting big enough they get out of the road, but you don't ever know if they'll just lay there. What we're gonna do next, we gotta get this tree out of here. This tree, it's an old ash tree. It's not in very good shape to begin with. I can cut it off my farm. It's not a big deal. But I'm not gonna cut it up completely. I'm gonna cut it down and I'm gonna use it behind the stand. And I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, got the tree down. Now, this is the side view of the tree that we're gonna hunt. You can see we've got this big oak. It's got a nice flat spot in the middle. Here's the problem. You can see between the edge of the woods and the tree, there's a gap. What could happen there is a big buck could come through here running a doe, or the does naturally might flow that way through that low spot. We have to keep that from happening. That's what that big tree is gonna be for. We're gonna take the tractor, we're gonna take our tree, we're gonna push it over there, and we're gonna build us a natural block behind that tree. One, it's gonna keep the deer from getting behind us and going downwind. Two, it's gonna provide us natural cover to come in from the other direction, and the deer won't be able to see us laying down here. Well, I noticed one other thing when I've been going around this plot. There's a lot of good licking branches located right down here in this corner where we're gonna put these turnips. I've got a hedge tree right in front of our tree. I was going to leave it for cover, but I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it down, I'm gonna push it back and use it for brush behind the blind to pinch the deer. I think what's going to happen here is these deer are naturally going to come through here, out of these turnips and into this low spot on the other side of the field naturally. And what they're going to do as they go is they're going to make some scrapes here. And there's some great licking branches underneath our tree. Problem is right now they wouldn't use them as a scrape because of this hedge tree. I'm going to get rid of that hedge tree and I'm going to use that to my advantage also. Well, that's it for today. We've got it plowed up. We're gonna let it sit here for a couple weeks. The grass is gonna rot. It's gonna put nitrogen in the ground, will provide fertilizer. In a few weeks, we'll come back with the disc. We'll disc it back smooth. We've got all of our trees cut. We've got everything ready. I can get this off my mind now. You know, I know some people are gonna watch this and they're gonna say, well, this isn't fair. You know, it's not fair to manipulate the deer like that. Well, I guess all I have to say is that's fine, that's your own opinion, but life's not fair either. And when it comes to killing big bucks, I'm gonna do everything that I can and take every advantage that I have to get one shot. Stay tuned to a next episode of Bowhunt or Die, and I'll talk to you about our doe groups and the food plot we have up here behind the house is gonna help us to localize these deer.
You know, in watching Clinton's segment, you know, there's a part at the end where he begins to talk about there's a lot of people who watch our show, and there's just people you meet in general when you go to the different bow shops and so forth that feel like the manipulation of your hunting properties, whether it be food plots, whether it be barriers, whether it be how you manipulate your woods, whatever, is unfair. And you know what? At the end of the day, provided that it's legal, you know what? I'm personally all for it, Justin. I mean, you know what? I am a big food plotter. I wasn't always a big food plotter. And as I've grown and matured in my hunting, I've learned that anything that I can do that's beneficial for the herd, in my opinion, is a good thing. I mean, it's not just about deer. You know what? I know when I go out to my late season food plots and I see the turkeys in there scratching and digging up food, and I see the squirrels running in there, and the birds flying in there, you know, honestly, I feel like I'm giving back. And I think if all hunters, Justin, do something, I mean, just because you have a spot where maybe you can't do food plots, there's always something you can do, whether it's put in an apple tree and cage it, a persimmon tree. There's all kinds of different things that you can do to try to give back. It may not make an impact this year, but I promise you, 3 apple trees, if every hunter that watches this episode planted 2 or 3 little apple trees or an oak tree on their property and caged them, 3, 5, and 10 years from now, it would make a big difference.
Right, and you know, from watching Clinton's footage, talking to Clinton, talking to Todd, seeing the emails that come in, I mean, my personal feeling is, you know, I agree with Todd. Anything that you can do to, number one, better your chances of being successful in the fall, so long as it's legal, I'm all for it. Number two, you know, I feel like a lot of these guys that complain about what their neighbors are doing or what the guy down the street is doing, I feel like if they worried more about what they were doing and how they were hunting and how they were going to increase their chances for success rather than worrying about what everybody else is doing that they think is decreasing their chances for success, not only would they probably, you know, fill the more tags, but they'd probably be a lot happier with their hunting. I mean, to me, it's all about personal goals, and I go out there for my own reasons, and everybody I hope that hunts does the same thing. You know, so if guys take enjoyment in planting food plots, like Todd and Clinton and some of these other guys do, or, you know, doing some selective harvesting of trees on their property or whatever it may be, by all means, go for it. I mean, if it's going to help you be successful, even if you're my neighbor and you're shooting one of the deer that I'm after, you know, I'm happy for everybody to shoot a deer. So, you know, that's my take on it. I think these guys are all doing a great job at trying to put themselves into a better position to be successful this fall, which, you know, ultimately is the name of the game. So, you know, that's all the footage we have to share with you guys for this week. Before we go, we want to share a couple of trophy photos from some people that sent them in for this episode. Remington Cool,
Chad Edwards,
Wilson Hubbard,
and Mike Peters.
Congratulations, everybody. Those are some great trophies. Now remember, if you want to see yourself right here in an episode of Bowhunt or Die, all you've got to do is log on to the homepage of bowhunting.com, click on the Submit Your Trophy button in the upper right-hand corner, and send us your photo. Well, guys, that's all the action we've got for this episode of Bowhunt or Die. You're going to definitely want to make sure you check back in 2 weeks because, Todd, we were just talking about it. The bucks are really starting to fill out. Their racks are really coming in really nicely. Trail camera pictures are starting to roll in. So the next 2 episodes, both in 2 weeks from now and a month from now, we're going to be focusing solely on bringing you more information about our team members, who everybody is, and some of the bucks that they're going to be chasing this fall. So make sure you check back in 2 weeks right here on Bowhunt or Die.
In the meantime, don't forget to check out facebook.com/bowhunting for daily updates, news, photos, and other exciting information. We want to hear your opinions and your stories, so join us now and like us on Facebook. I guess we weren't as ready as we thought we were.
It's okay, we're rolling. Whenever you're ready.
Welcome to another episode of Bowhunt or Die. I'm Todd Graff. Alongside me, as always, is Justin Czar, and we are gonna figure this one out here. Really short one.
Action.
There's no question about it. When you watch Trevor's time and effort he's putting into his food plots, there's no question about it, Justin. He's serious about it.
There's no question about it twice.
Okay, thank you very much.